The fourth season of the MGM Plus horror show From has recently concluded its fourth season. I thought the fourth season was going to be the final season, but it turns out that the fifth season is actually going to be the last one. If you remember, I did a series on the previous season, season 3, when it came out, and I was going to do an episodic coverage of it, but I figured, let's do things a little bit differently. I'm gonna wait till the whole series is finished and then do one big, well, slight big video, just slightly longer video about the entire season. So I'm going to be sharing with you my thoughts about the entire seasons, talk about some of the plot lines and how I feel about their implementations, as well as lay down some basic theories of things that I think might happen in the final season. And I guess review the whole thing and kind of say, like, you know, is the show still worth watching? Does it still have some of that early season magic, or is it kind of fallen off? If it is an obvious spoiler warning for From Season 4, if you haven't watched it yet and have interest in watching it, do not watch this video until you have watched the season for yourself. Now let's get something right out of the gate. I am not a big fan of horror shows and movies, and it's not because I get scared, it's because a lot of them are kind of the same. A lot of them are very, very similar to each other and share almost identical tropes, but From stands out to me because of its extreme emphasis on long-term character development and payoff, which is why I'm so invested in the show. So of course, we're gonna start things off by examining our characters and what happened to them in Season 4. But first, a little bit of background context around some of the conflicts that affect them throughout the season. If you remember back to the end of Season 3, poor Jim got his neck torn out by what we, assumed was just one of the creatures just coming out early, this dude in a yellow suit, but it was sooner revealed at the start of Season 4 that this guy in the yellow suit was much more than just one of those creatures that come out at night. Not only does he have the ability to shapeshift, but he also seems to know a lot more and have a lot more power than the creatures that come out at night. Also, the talismans that the townsfolk use to protect themselves have zero effect on him. And one of the main overarching conflicts that causes a lot of conflicts for our characters is him disguising himself as just another passerby who got trapped in the town as and infiltrating the entire town and like messing with people's trust and stuff like that. It's very interesting stuff. So that's the underlying conflict for the entire season, is the man in the yellow suit just absolutely messing things up. So I think the most obvious character we're going to talk about first is, of course, Tabitha, because, well, her husband just got murdered. Also, she learned that she was a reincarnation of the original person, I guess, or the original mother, who actually was the mother of the dead ghost children. So not only did she learn that revelation, but then she found her husband hanging upside down in a barn with his guts torn out and an ominous message on the wall saying, "Knowledge comes at a cost," which is exactly what the man in the yellow suit said at the end of Season 3 to Jim. Putting Jim up on display like that was definitely intentional on the part of the man in the yellow suit. Oh, God, I need a shorter name for him. It was definitely intentional of him putting Jim on display like that in order to throw Tabitha off and make her not really focus on all the memories of the revelation that she is a reincarnation of someone from ages ago. Because after all those memories and instincts and things she remembered would be extremely useful and valuable to the people of the town. But by killing Jim and putting him on display, she's completely thrown off and she won't be able to focus. So, at least our villain is intelligent, which is not something you see too often these days. The psychological horror and psychological warfare elements of From Season 4 continue to impress as they have in previous seasons. And as a result of Tabitha's grief in general just being completely scrambled in the brain, which, totally understandable, her kids kind of don't do too well. They start to suffer. Julie in particular kind of goes a little bit mental after she learned she could quote-unquote story walk through time. So she wants to see if she can try and prevent her dad from being killed. And as we know, right before Jim was killed, Julie did run up to him and tell him, like, you gotta get out of here, you gotta run, Dad. Julie comes up with a method of how to potentially leave a quote-unquote bookmark so she can return to multiple points in the story. And she tries to leave a literal bookmark with, like, leaving a piece of paper elsewhere in time. She convinces Randall to come help her, to pull her out of the ruins, in case things, get really bad, because she can't get herself out, not really. And on one of her attempts to leave a bookmark and try and prevent the story, because, she doesn't really know where she's going to end up, it just sort of happens, she comes across the man in the yellow suit. It is possible that that is the first time the man in the yellow suit is exposed to Julie, at all, because he was able to see her. And when she sees him on the road, he's eating someone. He's eating a person, so he is at least a little bit like the creatures in the sense that he eats humans. Also, I'm confident in a theory. It's kind of a theory. I'm pretty sure it's like confirmed slash like this is what happened, but I'm gonna say it's a possible theory in case I'm wrong. I think the person that the man in the yellow suit was eating on the roadside was Miranda, aka Tabitha's previous reincarnation and Victor's mother, because Victor shows his dad a drawing he made of the man in the yellow suit eating his mother, and that throws God, what is Victor's dad name? Henry. It's Henry. Victor shows Henry that drawing to, because, he pushes Victor about it, like, what happened to Miranda, what happened to my wife, and Victor shows him the drawing, and it kind of breaks him. And if I remember correctly, which I might not be, I'm pretty sure the man in the yellow suit was on the road in the drawing, and that's exactly where he was when Julie traveled back and saw him there. So I think that might have been the exact same point in time, because at a later time, Julie also goes back to just somewhere in the woods at night, and I think it might have been during the same scene where Miranda was being chased down, but I don't think Julie was like seeing it, or though she might have been, but I'm pretty sure it was that same fateful night. And it's made clear that she is not immune during her story walks, because one of the creatures goes ahead and pins her to the ground and starts trying to eat her, and luckily Randall pulls her out of the ruins so she doesn't get killed in the past. And that was kind of the line she drew. It's like, okay, if I can die in the past, then you know what, maybe I just shouldn't do this anymore. And Randall was 100% correct in being like, I think it's just giving you seizures, even if it's showing you things. Like, I just see you having seizures. I don't think you should be doing this anymore. Man has become extremely reasonable. Still aggressive, and, still has that, like, dickhead tone to him, but he is extremely rational and reasonable when it comes to survival now. So yeah, that's kind of been the big thing that's been affecting Jim's family ever since he died. They've all kind of just been scrambled and all over the place, and I feel real bad for him. And poor Ethan might be, I don't know if this is a hallucination or if it's, like, actually what it is, but poor Ethan, he goes back to the van where Jim died, and we've seen other characters interact with, I guess, phantoms or ghosts or echoes of people who have died in the town. Father Cotry and Boyd, for example. And Ethan sees Jim in, like, ghost form, and Jim tells Ethan that he needs to find, quote, the Lake of Tears. Another thing from one of Ethan's fantasy books. At this point, I don't know if that's, actually Jim, or if it's just the town or just that place messing with him. That is one thing this show is really good at making it hard to distinguish, is whether something happening is real or not. The only forces we know for a fact are benevolent and maybe not benevolent, but on the side of the townsfolk are the undead children and the boy in white. We know for absolute certainty that they are the quote-unquote good guys. Father Cotry is still kind of an intermediate. He does help push Boyd in the right direction, or at least try to, but we don't know how, why he's manifesting or how. It's possible that being a man of religion, it's possible that, like, because I don't remember what season it was stated in, but I remember there was a point in the show where someone said how people's, like, essence and souls, it might have been Jade, I think it was the conversation where Jade was like, maybe Aristotle had it wrong, where people's essence and souls kind of like linger in that place even after they die. So it's possible Father Cotry was able to manifest himself to Boyd more often because he was a man of religion and generally more spiritual and just had a more open mind about that sort of thing. So when he reached that state where he was sort of just lingering after his death, he's able to manifest himself more easily, where someone like Jim maybe just saw the opportunity and grabbed onto it, but now doesn't know how to anymore. Just some theories, but Ethan speculates that the lake by the settlement might be the Lake of Tears. So he goes there with them, with Donna, his mother, and a couple other random extras. And what happens? They find something floating in the water, so they pull them out, and they are like these giant versions of like doll scarecrow things? And they have no idea what they are, and they're like, okay, that's really creepy, we don't know why they're there. Let's just leave them alone. But you can probably guess what happens after that. That's right, they become alive. So not only do we have the creatures that come out at night, but now we have doll puppet things. Thankfully, Tabitha remembers something from one of her past lives, and she picks up one of those effigy things and uses it to kill one of the dolls, and that seems to deter the rest of them. Not before one of the extras gets killed, though. And that was a pretty big moment, because they have found something that is able to kill and hurt some of the nightmarish creatures in this town. The only other example they've ever had of that was the worms under Boyd's skin back in season 2 that they used to kill Smiles. Not that that mattered, since he just came back anyway, and don't worry, we'll get to that. So of course, course, now thinking they might have something that's actually valuable, they, of course, are like, what if we use it on the creatures that normally plague us? Boyd, of course, volunteers as the gung-ho sheriff, not wanting anyone else to get killed, but his, what does he have? Parkinson's, that's what it is. I was gonna say Alzheimer's, but that's not right. Yeah, his Parkinson's disease is worsening. For the first time, pretty much ever, Boyd accepts that he might not be able to do anything himself this time. And with a lot of pushing from Kenny and Ellis, Kenny, being Boyd's number 2, volunteers and is the one to go outside and try to, stab one of the creatures. Now, this was a moment I was really scared of because I've said it multiple times in my previous series. If they kill Kenny, I swear to God, I will never watch the rest of the show out of spite. The kid has been through enough. He's lost both his parents to this town. The girl he really likes no longer has interest in him now that their former fiance has come back. Kid's been through enough. And I was especially scared of Kenny going out there and testing this weapon because in the previous season, his overarching character arc kind of fully completed, and usually when a character is fully complete, that's when they die. Thankfully, this little scene I'm talking about here is the perfect segue to talking about another major character who has been through a lot of shit. Oh, and I think it's also important to mention that the man in yellow, disguised as a girl named Sophia, hears about this plan to try and test out the effigy, so he, informs the creatures of oh yeah, here's their entire plan, so you can screw them over and ensure that their volunteer gets killed. He messes with a lot of their plans this season, and it's really frustrating to be like, no, come on, don't ruin this. But I will say, just a little side tangent here before we transition to the next character I want to talk about. I will say the decision to give the viewers more information than they gave us previously to actually show us our villain's plans, kind of almost like seeing how a little Invincible callback here. When Nolan first killed the Guardians and no one else knows about it except for the audience and I guess Cecil. And we see constantly the build up to the big conclusion, kind of like that, kind of giving the viewer oh yeah, by the way, here's the main villain for this season and also the next season. You get to see them messing with everything and feel horrible about it, and you know what's gonna happen, but you're not gonna know how the characters are gonna respond to it, and that creates a lot of tension and viewer investment. I think that was an excellent writing decision on the part of the writers and the directors. So the season definitely gets huge thumbs up from me in regards to that decision. So Kenny goes out, and of course all of his escape routes get messed up, and he does successfully stab Smiles with the effigy, but Smiles of course messes with him, and he's like, oh god, it's killing me. Just kidding. And yeah, he's totally fine, and Kenny seems to be totally fucked. And as Kenny is struggling to lock himself down in the bus, as that seems to be the only option he has on the table right now, he gets cornered on the roof of the bus, and he's like, well shit, I don't know what I'm gonna do now. But off in the distance, up on the hill in Colony House, Fatima is having something of a weird premonition vision thing. She is somehow seeing through Smiles's eyes, seeing what he's seeing and feeling what he's feeling. And all season long, she's been talking about how even after giving birth to him and giving birth to, just all that whole crazy thing, that she still feels connected to that thing. And she sees what's about to happen to Kenny and feels the evil intent from Smiles bubbling up, and she gets all angry and outraged and just screams at the top of her lungs and somehow makes Smiles not do it, and manages to pull him back like Will in Stranger Things, for example, jacking into the hive mind, that kind of thing, pretty much the exact same thing. And that gives Kenny just enough moments to get his thoughts together, and then he goes and pushes Smiles off of the bus and locks himself inside, and thankfully my boy does not get killed. That whole scene was amazing, by the way. That entire sequence, watching it unfold, I was shaking crazily. I'm even getting a little bit hyped up just talking about it. That was an amazing sequence. And yes, let's talk about Fatima, shall we? After she was rescued from the birthing ceremony, I guess, she kind of feels very unwell. And yeah, I probably would, I imagine anybody would after something like that. In order to sort of help her keep herself sane, she does a little bit of an art project. She brings in pounds and pounds of dirt and water into her room and starts sculpting a quote-unquote golem. Once again, she talks about how her father told her all these fairy tales about how people made golems out of clay and dirt to help protect them, and she kind of just needs something to take her mind off things and just needs something to believe in after everything she's been through. Initially, other characters like Ellis and Boyd and Kenny and Donna kind of think she's, might be losing it a little bit, but they all realize that they have absolutely no clue what she's going through, and all they have to do is support her, and they all come around, and she starts mentally feeling a little bit better. So, good job to the other characters realizing we have no idea, what she's going through. Let's just be supportive because we like her. After all, the only thing they have is each other. But after that whole shenanigans with sort of connecting to Smiles and controlling him a little bit, these weird black veins appear on Fatima's stomach, very, very black veins. So when they go to the clinic to get it investigated, Christy doesn't find, that she seems ill or anything, and the ultrasound machine doesn't reveal anything either. And, her blood pressure and all that seems normal. That is until she pulls Marielle to the side and is like, her blood pressure, and is it so low, and her heart rate is 19 beats per minute. Medically, she should be dead. I was like, I'm sorry, what? Christy remembers back to when they did the autopsy on Smiles when they killed him, and how their inner, their organs and stuff were all completely dried out. And Christy is looking at Fatima and looking at her vitals and stuff and is like, holy shit, this reminds me of that. So, yeah, that doesn't really seem too good now, does it? It pains me so much to see Fatima go through all this, because when she was first introduced in season 1, she was this extremely kind and bright and benevolent soul who brought happiness to everybody in the town. And each season and each episode that went by, that, as Donna put it in one of the prior seasons, that light continued to be extinguished, and she just got brought lower and lower and lower, and she suffered more and more and more. This show is so good at making you care about a character and then watching them suffer. But the thing is, the show wouldn't be half as enjoyable if you didn't care as much as you do about these characters, but it knows how to make you care. Now let's talk about a pretty interesting plot point involving another character who's also suffering a great deal, our good buddy Henry. After seeing the drawing of the man in yellow eating his wife, Henry kind of loses it and starts drinking a whole lot. Eventually, he has this vision or premonition or whatever, where he's waking up in a hospital in the, quote, real world, or just outside the town, and, his son, Victor, he looks all nice. Victor sounds completely different, his cadence is incredibly different. It's not all stuttery like mine is right now. And Victor has a son, and he's in this hospital bed, and, supposedly, according to some of the things Victor says in this dream or vision, he's been sort of in and out of consciousness. Henry has been in and out of consciousness, reality in this other dream world ever since taking acid with his wife Miranda all those years ago. Because if you remember back to season 3, when Tabitha was in the real world and she met Henry, Henry told them about how before they settled down for good, they were going to do one last acid trip for old time's sake, and that's when Miranda kind of went crazy. And in this vision, Victor saying ever since then, you've been in and out of reality, and you've been in the hospital for many, many years. And this is 100% the town trying to mess with Henry to convince him that none of it's real. And he continues having visions of this, illusions, I guess I should call them, because there's no way this is what's actually happening. There's just no way. Dream theory like that would be such a cop-out. Eventually, the doctor tells Henry that he has to, destroy the thing that's anchoring him to that other reality. And guess what that is? Yup, it's Victor. So the doctor tells Henry that he has to kill Victor in the other reality, and he almost does it. He actually almost does it. Reminds me a whole lot of when Boyd's wife went crazy and started shooting people to, quote, wake them up. We know this town is very good at convincing people to do awful things, and once again, it did the same thing with Henry when he was at his most vulnerable and at his lowest. I mean, I can't blame Henry for being vulnerable after Victor tells him, oh yeah, this guy in the yellow suit that completely messed everything up when I was all of 11 or 12 years old. Yeah, I saw him eating our mother alive. That would probably mess me up a whole lot too, especially seeing a crude drawing of it. Oh my god, this show is just so good at making me depressed. Moving on, I've talked a lot about the effects that the man in the yellow suit has had on the town, and how, us as the audience are shown all of his plans. But why don't we actually hone in on him for a little bit? Like I said, he took the form of this girl, Sophia, and, pretended to essentially infiltrate the town in a car crash. He forced a guy who did get trapped in the town to crash his car and die, and, you know, then she was just left as this fatherless child. No one would suspect a thing. This thing happens all the time. At first, he takes time, you know, he works his way, like, through getting to, like, really understand and know the people of the town. He doesn't immediately start acting upon, like, his plans and stuff. He's tactical about it. He lays low. He, you know, like, gains their trust and stuff. And interestingly enough, and kind of unsurprisingly, he decides to, in the form of Sophia, make Sarah his friend. And this one time they were painting their house together, so Sarah was talking about the voices she heard, and lo and behold, as soon as that conversation ends, Sarah goes to do something downstairs, and immediately after, the voices come back. So I think it is extremely plausible that those voices are controlled, or at the very least puppeteered, by the man in the yellow suit. He also takes the time to employ the help of one of the townsfolk who is selfish and greedy enough, Clara, to, you know, she's only worried about her survival, to help him sabotage the rest of the townsfolk. And one of the things that he has her do is give her a drink intended for Fatima. Of course, it's spiked with this, like, some dark magic weird shit that it's gonna mess with her condition some more, and it worked flawlessly. Whatever is happening to Fatima worsens as a result of that little sabotage. So he is clearly aware and has knowledge of what is happening to Fatima and is actively trying to make it worse. And man, the results will speak for themselves. And he learns some very critical information from Jade and Boyd after Jade goes on something of a mushroom trip, because, you know, he heard about Miranda going on the acid trip with Henry and was like, wait a minute, maybe I can unlock some of my memories by going on a crazy trip like they did, because that's exactly what happened to Miranda. And Jade learns through this LSD trip, basically, that not only were all of his past selves murdered by humans, not by the creatures, but that the bones of the dead children are buried in the chamber that is within the tunnels where he saw the roots. And digging up those bones and getting them out of there is a significant step forward in terms of putting all this madness to an end and breaking the cycle. And when Sophia learns about that, she also calls Tabitha to the RV and confronts her as the man in the yellow suit. He shapeshifts back into his normal form and confronts her, right where he killed her husband as well. Now, he doesn't kill her. He says, you know, they've played this game so many times and it's not time for her to die yet. And he also mentions how this is the first time her and Jade have ever gotten the notion of digging up the bones. This is the first time that's ever happened. But he holds his confidence face, and, you know, he's still 100% overconfident, which I believe will be his downfall in the end. And he just says how excited he is to see how the rest of this game plays out. This has probably been happening for hundreds of years, and, you know, it's very entertaining to the man in yellow, as well as the creatures in the forest and pretty much everything else. And as you might have guessed, digging up the bones, that whole plot/plan, is the finale of the entire show. But before we talk about the finale, and, you know, before I give a general synopsis and some thoughts on it, let us talk about the character deaths that happen this season. Poor Elgin finds out about the man in yellow by complete accident, by seeing an old photo of Sophia, who probably was a real person, and, you know, the man in yellow tries to convince him to help him as well, to try and, you know, be like, you know, I'll let you live if you help me sabotage everything. And Elgin, being already have been manipulated by a higher force, he doesn't crack. Not really. I mean, he cracks in fear, but he doesn't submit. And poor guy gets completely gamered. And then we also have a really unfortunate character death, one that I didn't see coming, and one that, like, this is gonna sound messed up, part of me is happy about. Poor Marielle gets killed. The talisman in the hospital gets knocked off, and one of the creatures comes in and kills Marielle. Just Marielle. She leaves Christy alone, and then he just leaves. Actually, I'm pretty sure it was Smiles who did it, if I remember correctly. It's been a little bit since I've watched that episode. And the reason I say I'm slightly happy about it, because I'm like, yes, now there's room for Kenny and Christy, who are the ones I really wanted to go somewhere. But I still, my overwhelming emotion is still guilt and feeling horrible for Christy, because she just lost someone she thought she'd never see again. So yeah, two, like, I don't want to say, well, Marielle, I think, definitely counts as a main character death. I think Elgin kind of counts. He was definitely in the more of a supporting character role. But yeah, since his arc was already completed last season, he died. But to be honest, I think these two dying kind of make the most sense because I feel like they couldn't really have done much more with Elgin, to be honest, as a character. Like, there really isn't much more that could have been done with him. I mean, I'm sure if I really thought about it, I could come up with something, but I think him dying now makes sense. As for Marielle, like, you know, she's kind of just been just a general, you know, just supporting character for Christy for roughly the last season. I mean, they butt heads and stuff about whatnot, but they still ultimately love each other, but there really isn't too much more I see them being able to do with her as a character, so I think killing her off to progress Christy's character, who we've known since the very start, makes sense from a writing standpoint. But yeah, those were the two big character deaths this season. I guess Jim technically counts. We see the reactions to his death, even though his death technically happened in the prior season. We see the reactions and repercussions and ripples of his death this season. Now, let us talk about the finale, shall we? Jade comes up with a plan and a route to get the bones from the tunnels. The thing is, the chamber the bones are buried in has one singular entrance. So if they get cornered, they're boned. So Jade figures if they just put plastic against the entrance and tape it all up and secure it and hang a talisman over it, it would effectively act as a wall. So the plan is for Jade and Tabitha to go down there to get the bones because they're the ones who have done it before. Also, Tabitha points out how the markings on the talisman have a marking of two people, like on the actual marking. I'll throw it on screen right now. You can see like two like small symbols of what look like people on there, and I suppose that would be them. After all, they're the ones that keep coming back to try and free the children. The plan is for them to go down there, dig up the bones, all the while everyone up on the surface is going to be using every bit of leverage and chain and vehicle they have to fully uproot one of the bottle trees. Now, as you may have guessed, that's probably not a fully great idea, because the boy in white told Victor repeatedly that the tree is important and, you know, it needs to stay there. And we also learn from the man in yellow, as Sophia anyway, that what you do in this place is just as important as how you do it. Digging up the bones? That's spot on. How they're going to do it, though, with ripping up the tree? But regardless, they commit to it, even with Victor trying to stop Boyd and the others from ripping up the tree. They go through with it because they don't really see another option. And with the number of deaths increasing and just morale being at an all-time low and the number of people in the town also decreasing rapidly, they figure they're running out of time and they need to really get a move on. And as they're having a meeting about some of this stuff in Colony House, as they're having a meeting about the mushroom trip and all that and the viability, it's Kenny, Donna, Boyd, and I think also Officer Acosta was part of that meeting, and Ellis. I think that was the crew having the meeting in Colony House. Donna once again brought up the fact of, you know, how much more can the people of this town take? Like, what are you gonna tell them, that you're gonna dig up some bones that might be there because you saw them in a mushroom trip? And yeah, totally viable opinion. Like, who would believe that? I mean, I feel like in this place it'd be a little bit more believable, but still, the fact that, you know, LSD was involved, like, are you really gonna take that as accurate information? And Donna just kind of explodes at them and just gets really angry, and she's like, you know what, I need to go outside and get some air. And as Donna goes outside to get some air, she has a freaking heart attack. And I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner. The amount of times that Donna has had a breakdown due to all the crazy shit happening around them is insane. The fact that this hasn't happened yet is a miracle. Thank the high heavens she doesn't die, because if Donna would have died, then my God, I would have been weeping. And I like the, not really conversation, but I like all the things that Boyd said to her while she was in the bed recovering. They didn't know if she would recover, but Boyd was basically like, I cannot do this without you, and you are not going to die unless I let you, basically, unless I tell you to. And it is not your time to die. You are gonna get up and we are gonna get through this together. And it was extremely sentimental, and the fact that Donna, you know, actually did recover was just like, first of all, phew. Second of all, it created some very tender moments for a lot of our characters, because Donna is some of the lifeblood that keeps the whole place together. Her and Boyd are the two that keep it together. But eventually she's like, you know what? Yeah, we should just go forward with this plan, because at this point we have nothing else. So they commit to uprooting the bottle tree, making a rope ladder so Jade and Tabitha can escape the tunnels, and, well, we move into the finale. Everything kind of goes well at first. They manage to uproot the tree and send down the ladder. But as the tree is uprooted, the creatures just come through the plastic. So that plan didn't really work too well. Since the bones have already been dug up and the tree has been uprooted, a bunch of things that, you know, like one was supposed to happen, one wasn't. A bunch of like instability start to happen. The whole tunnels start rumbling and there's basically an earthquake. The creatures get blocked off from getting to Tabitha and Jade, but so too are Tabitha and Jade blocked off from escaping, although they do find another way to move into another like section of the tunnels. I should also mention they brought a radio with them. While they can't do direct communication, they can use Morse code to communicate with the surface. After the bottle tree is uprooted, a lot of bad things start happening, such as the sky turning into the upside down with red lightning and the whole shebang, and everybody is super unsettled and nervous about it. And as if on cue, Donna comes out of Colony House and says, "What the hell did we do?" Even in times of crisis, the show still has some good jokes. Eventually, Boyd puts together a crew to go and rescue Tabitha and Jade from the tunnels after they receive, you know, a signal from the Morse code. And, you know, Donna is one of the first people to question, what if it's the creatures doing that to just try and lure you down there? Either way, it's Boyd, Fatima, Ellis, and Kenny going down into the tunnels. And the tunnels continue shaking as Tabitha and Jade struggle to, you know, get out of the section they're in. There's like these wooden bars they can't get past. But eventually the rescue team finds them. And similar to last season, once again we find ourselves ending in the tunnels, kind of ending. The final scene doesn't happen in the tunnels, but the big, like, main part of the climax does happen in the tunnels once again. But they're all getting cornered by the creatures just as they're about to try and make their escape. Fatima goes feral and she turns into one of the creatures, but she doesn't attack, you know, our cast. She tries to protect them. Ellis tries to stay behind and, you know, try to stay with her or at least get her out of there, but Boyd and Kenny have to drag him because, well, it's kind of them or her. And they have the bones and there's more of them, so unfortunately it has to be them and not her. And all the while, the man in the yellow suit was rounding up all the talismans so he could go to one of the faraway trees and dump all the talismans into them so they're just scattered everywhere and no one will be protected at night. And as he's doing this, in his Sophia form, the boy in white appears and says, "You're going to lose this time." And he says it with, like, quite a lot of confidence, which is surprising because he just said the bottle tree was important, you know, the last time we saw him, and it just got uprooted. Like, clearly that was integral to your plan of breaking this cycle, but you're still confident that, you know, this whole cycle will still be broken? Maybe the townsfolk will just end up breaking everything on accident, and it'll just be like, oh yeah, even if the ghost children are screwed over, so is everyone else. Ghost children lose, creatures lose, man in yellow lose, maybe the town people will lose too, but at least then the cycle will be broken. Maybe that's what'll happen, I don't know. But yeah, finale was quite crazy. They managed to get the bones, but Fatima turns into one of those things, although she, you know, didn't seem aggressive towards the townsfolk. She just tried to protect them. Maybe that was just her last ounce of, you know, human will just being used up, but who knows. And the talismans are all gone, which means people have to resort to hiding and praying once again. As the man in the yellow suit said at one point in time, it gets messy towards the end. So yeah, I imagine in the final season we're going to get a lot more character deaths, and I swear to God, if Kenny is one of them, it's gonna break my fragile little heart. Season 4 definitely picked things up a little bit, and the pacing was definitely a little bit quicker. There's still that element of like somber slowness, like sort of like, that's kind of the whole show is kind of built around, but a lot of things happen more frequently and the events are a little bit more, like there's a lot more action, is what I'm trying to say. Because we have the scene at the lake with the living dolls. We have Kenny out trying to kill the creatures. We have multiple scenes in the tunnels with crazy stuff happening and the red lightning in the sky. Oh, and I guess Julie's story walking. I guess that counts too. So there's a lot more action going on and there's a lot more communication between the characters going on, and the audience is being told a lot more information than they were previously. Because for the first like 3-ish seasons, we were kind of as much in the dark as the characters were, but now the show is starting to reveal things to us a little bit more as we approach the end. Like I said, I thought season 4 was going to be the final season, but it turns out that season 5 is actually going to be the final season. So now we have to wait again. One of my personal theories for season 5 is that season 5 will take place over the course of just a couple of days. Because previous seasons took place over the course of multiple weeks and even months. But I think season 5 is just going to take place over the course of a couple days. With the talismans all gone, each night and each day becomes more and more valuable. So I think season 5 is only going to be a couple of in-universe days long. I also think we're going to be seeing the boy in white a whole lot more, and, you know, hopefully have most of our questions answered by the end. And one character, or I guess antagonistic force anyway, that we didn't really see too much of in season 4, actually that we saw it all in season 4, was the lady in the kimono, who I think might be the real higher-up orchestrator of everything. If the creatures that come out at night are the foot soldiers, and the man in yellow is like the, I don't know, commander, I guess, or sergeant, squad leader, whatever, then that would probably place the lady in the kimono as like the general, because she is way supernatural and she doesn't appear very often unless it's extremely important. So I think she's probably the overarching force that the people made the deal with, you know, that they sacrificed their children with all those years ago. I don't think it was the man in yellow. I think the man in yellow is just the guy there to ensure that the gears keep on turning. So I imagine we'll be seeing her again as well in season 5. I'm also curious if we're going to get more dead characters coming back, kind of like how Father Khatri does, and giving some sage advice or whatever to all the people of the town. I feel like we're going to be seeing some more of that. And, you know, whatever effects the bottle tree is going to have, I feel like that's going to be one of the most integral things that happens in season 5, because Boy in White said it was important, got ripped up, and a bunch of stuff started going wrong immediately. So I imagine the ripple effects of that are going to be one of the core obstacles for our characters to overcome in the 5th season. But to try and sum up my thoughts, because I've been ranting for quite a while now, from season 4, very nice. I liked season 3 a lot. There were a lot of aspects I did like about it. The show did feel kind of slow in some areas. Like, I feel like more could have been done and some screen time could have been better utilized in season 3. But it's not nearly as bad as some other shows I've watched in terms of pacing. Season 4, on the other hand, very good. It feels really, like, it feels very good. Like, if I were to give, like, compare ratings, I give season 3, like, a 6.6 out of 10, maybe a 6.75. Season 4, I'd give like an 7.85 out of 10, or maybe even an 8 out of 10. Season 4 was very good. Having an actual singular overarching antagonist definitely helped, and letting the viewers know of his presence and just wait and in anticipation to see what he's gonna do to our characters definitely helped build up a lot of viewer tension, which was excellent. I really hope that it does end at season 5, because you can only have so much of a good thing, and you know, I hope that whatever direction they took with this season, they push even further in the next season, because they did stuff really well in season 4. So I hope they continue a lot of these practices and making similar writing decisions in the next season. But what do you think? Do you think it's possible that they might try and get a 6th season, or do you think that they're going to go ahead and end things at season 5? Who do you think is going to die in the next season? Do you think they'll actually betray me and kill Kenny, or do you think they'll make it even worse and kill Donna after she had a heart attack? I don't know, but I would love to hear all of your thoughts down in the comments, and while you're down there, I'd really appreciate it if you would consider hitting the like and sub button for more content like this. If you did, you know, enjoy this video, look forward to some more reviews and just synopsises and me talking about shows I like in the near future, because House of the Dragon is currently airing, and I'm definitely gonna probably at least make 1 or 2 videos on that. And if you like what I do a whole bunch and you want to show me a tiny bit of extra support, be sure to check out the channel memberships or the Patreon. Not only do you get access to a whole bunch of exclusive rewards and things like director's cuts, but you also directly support me in the process and help keep this channel running. But that is going to do it for now. Thank you all so much for watching, and yeah, have a good day, everyone.